Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Thursday. It is Thursday night, and welcome to the Erudition Network Interactive Black History and Knowledge Session. I am your host, as I am every Thursday, Eddie Phillips, and I am a public historian, and I am on here every Thursday night to go over Black history knowledge and information. Excuse me. But tonight, I hope that you join us, or if you're new joining us, let you know what we do here. Every Thursday, I do this program. I get on and we interact about Black history, knowledge, and information that is not um, uh, uh, um, loosely shared or hidden or hasn't been talked about, or maybe you heard back in the day, but it's not something that is ever present with you. So I get on here on Thursday evenings to have this interactive conversation with the audience and venture and delve into our history. I'm going to give a couple of minutes for individuals to come on. I like this to be a live session, interactive session, because it allows us to discuss things in real time. And when we discuss things in real time, we get an opportunity to learn together, you know, basically pick up information together and venture down and try to understand something together. Um, if you are joining us, or even if you watch the rebroadcast of this, please let us know that you're watching. Drop your name in the chat or on the YouTube channel or on the Facebook, and let me know. Sorry, my eye was itching. That you all are watching and that you're interacting um, with the information that we're putting out, because we enjoy interacting with you and getting this information out here. So I would greatly appreciate anything that you provide for us or talk to us about, or the information that you leave. And I like to always interact with my audience and talk to you and get information from you. Hey, all you all are watching, is my mic, is it coming through clear? Is it clear to you? Let me know, because I was having a little bit of issue before we got on tonight with the audio, and I wanted to make sure that it is coming through well. All right, good. Tina says yes. Shout out to the I see you here. Thank you, my son, for being here. I see my wife Tina is here. Thank you also. Hey, just drop in the chat, let us know that you're here. I'm gonna give about another 2 minutes, and then we're gonna really kind of delve into some things that I wanted to talk about tonight, and further our understanding. There's a lot going on. One thing I don't really want to spend the next couple of weeks talking about politics. I don't necessarily but there are so many things that are going on right now um, that are affecting us, that I just feel that, we keep kind of segueing over to the political side of the conversation. And that in itself is not a bad thing. But at the same time, I don't want to become preoccupied with just talking about um, politics, because that's a small part of what we try to do here on this program. So just a few more minutes. While we're waiting, when we start this program, if you've been with us for any amount of time, you know that I open this program every week with basically the same modus operandi. I open the floor up for questions. If you have questions, before we do that, though, do me a favor. Share the program, share the program, share the program, share the Erudition Network Interactive right now that's on to your Facebook page, or wherever you do your you participate in social media, and let people know that we're on and we're talking history here tonight. And you'd be surprised how many people are interested in knowing something about their history. So please do that, and it will definitely help us um, as we grow this network. So the first thing I'd like you to do is just do that for us. Um, but I'm going to open up the floor here now for questions. I do this every week. We start the show with any questions that you may have. They may be history questions, they may be general knowledge questions, they may be some basic understanding that you're looking to find out, something that you're curious about that I may know some of the answer to, or we could at least endeavor to go down and the rabbit hole and try to figure it out together. So anything that is interesting you, please feel free to drop that in the chat and we will answer it tonight, or try at least to. Why do people act like the news is biased when in reality the news has been a fairly biased history since its beginning? Well, media, Sean Anthony, what we used to call, um, it's a tricky thing, because honestly, we need media. We need the fourth estate, as the French used to call it. We need them to a certain extent to fact find and to delve into things that most of us don't have the time or the predilection to kind of go into. But the history of the fourth estate is very tumultuous, because I do believe that, we are in an age right now where people are um, buying up the media, right? Uh, it is a vital, important part of us, but if it's purchased, right, and then the information comes out wrong. But there have been times in history too where the fourth estate has been very um, in reporting political and economic and cultural issues that um, you know kings and things used to try to hide. So I do get your point that they typically hide things anyway, or fairly they are biased in some way, but that also depends on what we allow, right? And as the media has changed and grown over time to this global entity that we see now, their influence can be pretty dangerous. Um, so I would tell you that, again, like last week when we talked about research, that you should try to spend some time learning how to do research yourself, so that you don't just depend on them. They were always there as a reporting service, the press and the media, to do what people didn't typically have time for. But now you have a little time. You have more time than most people have in early ages. So you can go out and research this information for yourself without a bias. But that's a good question. Any other questions? Anybody else? Any other questions? Anything is open. We're here for you to ask these questions. Anybody? Um, the other thing I guess I would talk about tonight, um, we're as we you guys still free to ask your questions, but I want to talk a little bit tonight about something that is going on in the world that, you know, I had a viewer friend of mine say we don't talk about enough. And I said, well, it has been a while since I've um, talked about this particular subject. Um, but I think we should, and I think that we're going to do it tonight. Um, and so we're going to talk about the history of the Palestinian people a bit, not fully, but I want to go into it a bit because I think there is some false facts out here, and I think that we need to understand why we are where we are right now. And so I want to do that. Give me a moment. I'm trying to set out a reminder. All right, I did that. Okay. So I want to talk about that a little bit. Sean Anthony. Yeah, the knowledge is there to go, however, but there's so many websites with their own biases that I believe most people these days find it hard to figure out proper reference, especially since many sites are always talking about how they have the real truth. So that's a good point. Sean Anthony, I don't know. I think you were, but for those who weren't, let me bring up something here. Last week, I mapped out and I talked about research. I talked about how to conduct how I go about conducting um, uh, research on Black history, but how I research anything, right? And I went into all of the steps, broke it down into steps um, to show you all how it works and what happens with it. And there were about 11 steps. Some would argue 12, but we broke it down into 11 steps about what happens before you share information. The same thing works when you're talking about um, history or things like that. You still have media for that matter too. You still have the proper way of doing research. Unfortunately, a lot of us um, were taught in a system that really honestly has failed us on how we do um, research. Many, and many of us believe that we know how to do research, but we really don't. And unfortunately, where it's leading us is into foolery. It goes down to how we look at the media. It goes down to how we choose presidential candidates. It goes down to many, many things. And we have failed um, to recognize how to do it properly. But we are quick, right, to tell someone that we know, right? We're quick to validate to people that we know, and we do this false equivalency or false bias, and that is a problem, right? Um, so I want to kind of go into that. Sorry, I'm typing while I'm talking to you, but I want to hit that, Sean Anthony. I want to show you that I'm trying to bring up the actual slide that I used yesterday. Um, yesterday that I used last week. Give me a moment here, and I will bring that up. Nobody else had any other questions, any other issues. Nobody had any history questions other than Sean Anthony tonight. Give me a moment here. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this up because I think that that was a good question that you had here, and I think that it's worth us going back into um, briefly and sharing. All right. See that right here? So I'm not going to go into a lot of it because I think we broke it down pretty much last week. But I will say that research is a huge part of this, right? defining what you want to know, formulating questions that concern. You will notice in my last book that I wrote questions. Right, it's here. I wrote questions. It's 101 different questions. Right, shameless plug. But I wrote and formulated questions. Right, um, that talked about the particular areas of interest, the origins of humanity, the Black history of early African kingdoms, ignored African kingdoms, Black history of Carthage and Numidia and how they affected the Europeans, and history of the Indus Valley in Asia and how that affected the East. But you formulate a question, right? And then you go in and you try to find things that disagree and agree. You have to judge, and you have to be willing to be wrong. And quite often in the research that we see nowadays, people aren't willing to be wrong. And when you're not willing to be wrong, then you go into a bias, right? You go into a bias. Um, and I think that that's one of the major issues that people are having right now, because I think that we all are seeing huge biases, right? We're seeing huge biases um, that are affecting people, and it's causing folks to assume things that they should not assume, and they're normalizing their bias, right? And making these false congruencies, these false observations, and they're saying to themselves that this is what I want to see, this is what it is, and they take that as the truth, and that's reckless, right? Um, you have to be aware of your own confirmation biases and your tendencies to to bend to what you want, right? Because confirmation bias is not a way to learn. So you have to open yourself up to the idea that something that I accepted as a young child, or something that I accepted throughout my life, I may have been wrong, right? Um, we have some psychologists right out here. You have that illusory correlation, that thing where you say to yourself, right? You falsely perceive it in a way, right? Because that is what you accept, because that's what makes you feel good. And so we have to be careful of media that would allow us to do that. And so I put this on here because I wanted to go in here and show you all some of these things, even in Wiki, right? So you see all of this. You see all of these different things. And I want you to go in there. So I wanted to bring up Wiki because I want to talk about something too. I heard somebody tell me recently that Wiki is wrong. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. If you go back and you look at how you pull information, confirmation bias, all of these lists of congenitive bias, right? If you go in there and look at your bias theories, so if you were to do this research and to go through and click through, this is a start. Go back to where I told you. Identify your research topics. I don't care if you do it through Wiki. I don't care if you do it through books. Identify it. Here is where people fail. Where you fail is that once you go to here, this is all you say. And you don't go and do the necessary work. There are libraries all over the world, right? There are historical libraries. There are places to go. There is a site called, I just had it in my head. I just had it in my head. Can't remember it. But there is a site um, that you can go to that will allow you to, if it'll come back to me, but it's an online library where you can get books, ladies and gentlemen, for free. For free. Even they're scanned books that will allow you to see it for free. And because many of us don't know this, we stop our research at Wiki. We stop our research at Wiki. And because we stop it at Wiki, we fail. We fail. I'm going to find out, I'm going to try to remember where it is, but it's an open free research library online. I have it on one of my bookmarks. I'm trying to look through it right now. That's why I kicked you all off of my thing here. But there are places to go online that you can grow your knowledge. And many of us refuse to do, I won't say that. Many of us who know, we refuse to go validate or devaluate what we said based on what is out here. And then there are those who just really say to themselves, no, I'm just going to go at whatever it is that I thought. Right? There's another, here's another library. This is in my bookmarks too. That is a great place. People always ask me, Eddie, where do you go if you wanted to learn something? Here's another one. There is a thing called Documenting the American South. I have found in my research throughout the years that going online. So this was the original, this book, this is a link to the Religious Instruction of the Negro by Charles Kolchak Jones. Now you can go and buy this book online. Great book to read. Or you can come here and you can download or read the book for free. Right? Well, people ask me, well, how do you go in and find these books? That's a national digital library that allows you, it's OCR, it's scanned from the book, from the original book, put into online for you to go and go read. Don't stop at Wiki. That's my point. Don't Wiki and stop. Right? Learn, grow. You can Google, you can ask, you can do all of these things, but you also have to go further. You have to go further. All right. I done beat that to death. Wasn't really what I wanted to go into today. But I wanted to touch on that because Sean Anthony brought that up. Also, it's free to join homeschool groups and study. They share a lot of information about free learning tools like books. Yes, homeschool. There are a lot of correspondence places online for you to grow your knowledge. All right. I guess none of y'all had any other questions. I'm going to take that banner off of here for questions. Nobody had any other questions. And I kind of got sidetracked and going on and showing you all how to do some of this. And maybe one night we will do a full version of that and show you all exactly how to use Wiki, what not to use on Wiki, how to go. There's another thing too. And I wanted to get off of this subject, but here's another thing too. Peer-reviewed sources are on Google. So Google has a function, right, to go on and look at peer-reviewed information. You can go on peer-reviewed and you can do a search, right, so that you can pull up information as a scholar. Maybe many of you didn't know this, but you can go on Google Scholar and say, I want to say, now I can go and say, what books are out here that Ida B. Wells, the autobiography of Ida B. Wells, selected works of Ida B. Wells. What books do I need to see? Who are these people who wrote these books? How many books did Frederick Douglass write, right? Narratives and things like that. It does not always have to be Wiki. And I say this tonight because I want you, people ask me all the time, How do you study? How do you figure this out? How do you know where to go? How do you know this information? How do you know who wrote this, did what? That's how you do it, right? That's one of the ways where you can go in and say, hey, I want to know, right, about Herodotus's histories. Where could I find that, right? Who has that? And then it will tell me, right? Oh, wait a minute. I can go through and I can look online and find, these different versions of Herodotus's histories, right? Who else contradicted that? Maybe somebody else translated it. Google Scholar is a great feature to utilize when you need to go and actually do research. And many people, when they talk to me, have no idea that Google Scholar even exists. They don't know. You see, you have Cambridge Library, you have libraries all over the world where you can go on and find this information. So I wanted to share that tonight. I hope those of you who are here with us tonight, you got that information and you got something from that section of the show. We're 27 minutes in, and I want to kind of get to what else I wanted to talk about tonight. Unless any of you all have any other questions, comments, concerns, theories, wants, anything. No. All right. Shanati, I hope that answered your question. Don't be afraid of Wiki, but don't depend on Wiki. Okay. Let Wiki just be the start of what it is that you're trying to do. And go back and watch last week when I did the entire way of how to do research. But let tonight. What? What do you mean the way that systems are structured? That's a very open question. Very, very open question. And I'd be willing to go there, but I need to know what it is that you're talking about. I was waiting on you to put something else in here. Nothing? All right. I got a lot going on my screen right now because I opened up all those windows for y'all, but I'm trying to close some of them down. Well, that's a hard that's a hard thing to determine because quite honestly, throughout history, we see that a lot of systems are created for purposes, right? To make the one, what is the purpose of why you create the system? Rather it be for to make it easier for you to be able to do something, for you to have a better understanding of how things work. I think, though, if I were to speak in general, at least, the reason why systems get corrupted, and answering some of your question, is that a lot of it comes down to something very simple. To begin with, how to reform and to prevent the woman killed in her home. You have to. Well, police systems. Here's the thing. At the heart of the police system, we have to ask ourselves a question: how did it start? How did it start? Right? If you know that police systems started in a nefarious way, right? Then you know that it's never going to be right, right? And that's the problem that we're facing right now in this country. You know, The American police system started with the idea of catching slaves because or preventing theft. As some historians will say, well, it wasn't just that they were catching slaves. Their idea was that slaves were property, right? And it was about theft and people taking something that you own. Okay, whatever. But at the heart of it, right, we see that it went from what was known um, in ancient times, where people had constables, they had guardsmen, they had people who stood outside of territories and they watched, right? And their job was to keep the enemy out of the city, out of the kingdom, or whatever it may be, however you wanted to look at it. But then it became an issue of, in the new world, how to maintain what it is that you had, right? So we started with something like slave patrols, right? Where these men will go out and they got paid to make sure that slaves who were going from plantation to plantation, or from home to home, maintained where they were. That's why it's such a disgusting thing to watch when you see how police interact with African Americans even today. But you understand that that system was built that way from the very beginning. And I think that a lot of people, let me ask you all a question. Let me ask you a general question. How long has the current modernized police system been in place? Give me a year that you think that since it's been in place. How long do you believe that the modern, I said modern, city police force has been in place? Because usually when I ask this question, someone will give me an answer that it surprises me. But there's no wrong answer. Give me a year. How long do you think, or give me a general idea, 200, 100, whatever, what years, how long do you think that the municipal police system, the city police have been in place? Okay. Tina says early 1800. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come on, y'all. Teddy said, you said since 1970. I hope not. I hope not, because I mean, there's a lot of illegal police that was out here. All right. I'm assuming there's no other answer. So let me tell you, it has only been before Christ. I said our city, municipal, current city police, the fighting blue, the toughest gang in the cities. How long they've been in place? Well, I will tell you, you're absolutely right. They've only been in place since the early 18. Well, I say the mid 1800s, around 1840, right? 1840 is when we saw about the first police system, and that was in the North, place like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and things like that. And there was a reason for that, right? Because when you look back, when you look back at those times, right? This was the place for them to have power, particularly in the North. So we migrated from a slave patrol to a police force. Now, when we talk about innocent people being killed by the police, this is because of the political power and bureaucracy that the police had from the very beginning of their establishment, right? And I think if you really look at history, right, and you really understand, excuse me, I was choking, and why that was, you start to understand that people, there was a reason why they got more power. So if you start the police in 1840, and by 1850, we're enforcing the Fugitive Slave Act. And the police played a heavy part in that. We're grabbing up civilians and we're going into homes and we're taking people down based on the fact that someone said that that was my slave that escaped. So systems get corrupted. Going back to your question about systems get corrupted because people, right, get into this idea that they have the power over it. And once they do that, if there's no pushback, no challenge, it becomes a corrupted system. But I hope that answered your question. I hope that answered some of your question. Nothing else? That answered it. All right. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get into what I wanted to get into tonight, so I might just push it off until next week. We had some really good questions. You guys we talked about research and how we research and Wikipedia and the online libraries. And I really want to find I don't know. I'm having a brain fart, which is not usual with me. The internet library that will allow you. It'll come back, and I'll put it in the chat. I really want you all to have there it is. There it is in my. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen again with you all. Give me a moment here, because I want you to see this. I really, since we're going down this path of research, and I don't know what you mean. Say what I was going to say, Tina. I don't know what you're talking about. No, I don't have time. I have to go into Palestine. It would take at least 40 minutes. I think I'm just going to push off, and we'll do that next week. I'm sure things will not resolve with Palestine by then, and we have more than enough to talk about with it. But this is a good subject and path to go down, as we are having thunderstorm outside, and I'm hearing bumping and screaming. And all right, here it is. So here's a great library online for you college students, researchers, folks who want to know about things. A lot of this information is built off of the idea that of free sharing. It's a nonprofit. There are books from all areas of study that you can go in. So there is no excuse that you don't have information, right? It will show you people's videos and how they talked about it. I just looked for Darwin, right? Replacing Darwin, books about Darwin, books that go against Darwinism and his theory, and books that support it, and on and on and on. And you can go and you can study, right? Things that don't necessarily agree with your excuse me, with your idea of or your point of view. And that's really what this is about. And you can go on here and look for things on the web, books, video, audio. Maybe there's software out here. The Internet Archive will do all of that and show you a lot of information. It's just another resource to use. Say you wanted to look up books on Spanish America, right? There you go. Say you wanted to look up things about the Mexican War of Independence. Any of those things, as obscure as they are, you can look up. I want to know, right, about the People's Grocery lynchings. Okay, well, that didn't show me. Maybe I was too specific. Right? But let me you know what? Let me put this here because that's probably why. Because it deals with Ida B. Wells. It's embarrassing. But again, just something for you to go in and look at this information and find this information, right? It's there, it's available, and it's something that you can go and look up archive.org and go pick up and pull up these books and this information. Excuse me. You all have a little, I've been still trying to get over my bronchitis, so please forgive me, you all, if my voice sounds a little weak, but it's just something I've been dealing with lately. But I want you to know how to do your research and how to grow. Um, don't be biased and don't leave out anything. I used to tell people that the purpose of a filter is to cut things off. You have to properly align your filter, right? Um, you should follow the Shannon Nyquist rule, where you if you're going to sample something, do it 2 times what it is, right? So that you get as much as you can. And then you can kind of go in and filter out the noise, as we call it, and we can start to figure out what is it that we really, really need. But if you filter too closely, then you truncate your understanding. You cut off what you can understand because you never expanded yourself to read further. I see that a lot with people who are out here trying to research now, right? Remember during the pandemic, people told you, oh, I did my research. I know exactly what this does. And their research was looking at the at health services on television and listening to their briefings and getting on Wiki or Google, one section of Google. And that's all they did. And that didn't help anything. So your understanding was reduced. That's not what we're doing here. That's not what we want to support here. We want to grow our understanding. We want to grow what it is that we're talking about. All right. All right, we got about 15 minutes. Come on, you all. Anything else that you want to talk about here tonight? I kind of went off a little bit of what I wanted to talk about, but that's fine. That's what the interactive is for, and I'm all good with that. I think it's a good thing when we do that sometimes because that means that whoever is on here, you're asking questions, you're engaging. Sean Anthony asked a great question, took us down the avenue of research. Tina asked another great question, talked to us about how systems work. And why they get corrupted, especially police systems. So anything else out here, anything y'all want to talk about that we haven't discussed here tonight? As I'm closing things on my screen, y'all had me clicking all over my screen tonight. Anything? Any question? Well, can I offer you a suggestion in the last 15 minutes? If you are watching this and you have not done it yet, I would ask that you go on to Amazon or Lulu Books, lulu.com or Amazon, and you go search for the 101 Black History Question Challenge. Do this before 102 comes out so that you're going to get something from this book. All right. I want you to go out and get this book. I want you to learn. I want you to grow. I want you to understand Black history. I don't care whether you're black, white, or whatever, red, yellow. I want you to know where we come from. I want you to understand who we all are. Because if we can do that, we start to understand our connections. We stop telling people that someone who has a Jamaican and Indian background is not Black. We stop telling them that they're not African or don't have an African background. We start to realize beyond our cultural differences, right, that there is an inclusion here, and that the migratory patterns of man, which is what this book talks about, right? The migratory patterns of man and his interaction with other cultures is why we are where we are now. This is the start. This book talks about the start, and then we move into the next book that I'm working on right now, into how we got into Europe and how we went from, woo, y'all hear that? How we went from Europe all the way to America. Yeah, I heard it in my mic. We had a huge bang bang out here. We don't usually get that, and I'm hoping that it don't knock everything out. But we only got about 10 minutes left, so we'll work through it. I'm not worried about no storm. But yeah, I want you to get that book, ladies and gentlemen. Go out there and get the book, and when you get it, do me a favor. Put out, let people know that you liked it, or you disliked it, or you got nothing from it. Look at this beautiful face in the back of mine. Let us know how you feel about it, right? And we will gladly, we will welcome it, because I think it's just that important that we do that. I don't know if I'm going to stay on because it's really storming out, and I hate for my power to be on while we're doing it. So we might cut this session a little short by 10 minutes. That's fine. That's fine. Before we get kicked off in a way we don't want to be. And there's not many questions. Unless you guys have any other new questions, any other new thoughts, I'm going to call it a do tonight, and get out of here. I don't want to stay on too long with all of this going on, unless you guys have something that you are curious about. I'm going to say this before I get out of here, though. Hey, if you are a supporter of the Erudition Network, please share this program. Get people on here so we can start talking together about our history and who we are. And we will appreciate it. All right, I see my wife and my kids are talking about, do you hear the electricity? Yeah, it's really coming down hard. Somebody scream, take cover. I'm going to get out of here, you all. Well, God willing, we will see you all next week at the same time, same place. Bring your friends, have fun, come on here. Let's talk about history. It's kind of a laid back session tonight. Didn't really go into a lot of things I wanted to talk about. A lot of things I didn't expect we would talk about, wiki and everything else, and internet archive and everything, but and research, but and police systems. But hey, that's what happens on here. Please join us again on Monday. Tina will be on with her show. The boys are on Wednesday, and I will be back with you, God willing, on Thursday, talking history. But until then, I would like for you all to stay safe, be blessed, and love each other. And I don't know why all of a sudden. My kids decide to play music up here, I guess. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, let me get out of here. That's my cue. All right. No, somebody, it didn't start by itself. One of them decided to send their music up here. All right. Okay, then, ladies and gentlemen, let me get out of here. See you all next week. Be blessed. Until then, talk to you later.